Right, hello, welcome to Game Over's first live discussion. Hopefully it works. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy today. So I am Dan. I'm joined by Matt, Dan, and Aaron.
Hello.
Okay, seamless.
Absolutely. Right. Good stuff. All right, so we watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 at the midnight release. So we saw it before most of the country, so we are ahead of the game. But in any instance, we're still going to do spoilers. But I think maybe for the benefit of people, we'll do a non-spoiler thing right now. So, Aaron, Dan, obviously we're all coming from very different places thinking about this because you know, Aaron, you like your comic books, but equally, Dan, I remember when Guardians of the Galaxy 1 first came out, I was like, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, you're like, oh, it's just another fucking superhero team, isn't it? So, you know, we're what, 3-4 years on now. Well, how have your opinions changed? Is this?
Well, who wants to jump in first? I suppose I will, because I've just spoken.
Yeah.
You know, I only saw the first one once, and that was in the cinema, and I didn't really like it that much. I can't remember why. I think I must have been on a high horse, because I wasn't looking forward to the second one, but I was so surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Even from the start, you know, it's got the Groot dancing to ELO with the fight going on in the background. I didn't want to laugh, but it just drew me in straight away. I really liked the fact that the comedy was just towing the line between a bit too cheeky and kind of dirty, sexy, lots of kind of poo and willy jokes, which I appreciate because I'm just a small child. And I told you guys about the thing. It just cracked me up. The one bit where it basically Drax can't wear the space suits because it says he's got sensitive nipples, and in the very climax of the fight, he straps on and flies away and just goes, my nipples. I was gone from that point on. But I aside from probably the 15 minutes of filler within the fight itself, they kind of did the same fight 2 or 3 times. I thought it was all just good fun. You know, it's not going to win Oscars, of course, but it's definitely good for like a variety of audiences, and you can't really ask a lot more from a comedy superhero movie than that.
I think that's fair. Like it is when the film started, you know, it started with this whole Baby Groot thing with the dancing sequence, and I turned to Dan here and I said to him, I hate it already because I do, because from every time we've gone to the cinema and seen the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, it's always like, here's what Baby Groot's doing now, and I hate it because for me, like, it's not the worst bit, but it's like the least relevant bit of the film, but you know they've put it in to get like the women and children in, and I don't mean that like in a derogatory fashion, but it just, for me, it rather detracts from what the film's about. And indeed, the film isn't distinctly about anything for a good hour or so. Like, it's fun, it's nice, it's funny, but it's for me a frustrating watch. But I do have to, like, you know, look at it like, am I just trying to not enjoy it, or am I looking for holes to pick in it? And I do think you're not. I don't think you're going to come out of it disappointed.
No. So basically, it was good, but you hated it.
Because that would mean I was wrong. So it was fine. As I said to everyone, like, it's fine. You know, there are things to like about it, and there are things to be frustrated about it, and it just depends what you want to take as the main focus, I think, of your opinion of it. So, Aaron, Dan of Pulinger, what do you say?
I'm with you. It was fine, but I found that maybe it might have been too funny at times. Like, there are points in it where someone's going to make kind of a poignant point, because a lot of the points are everyone's got their own little story. Everyone's story is usually revolving around their family or something in their past. And every time you kind of get some sort of like heartfelt moment, someone does like the David Brent thing and just sort of like has this sort of look for this moment. And it's like, oh yeah. There's a bit where Gamora's talking about like tearing Thanos a new one. And it's kind of this kind of hard thing because she's talking about every time she lost a fight, he used to tear a bit of her off and replace it with her.
That's Karen Gillan's, not Gamora.
No, I meant Sodom. I don't mean Sodom.
Fuck it, you mean Sodom.
Yeah, I heard that chat is kind of a cool chat, and then instead of it just being left at that and have her just take a ship and leave, Matey Boy then has to go, oh, what then? And they have to come joke out of it at the last minute. No, that was.
I actually have that bit written down. I have that as an exact example written down. What have I got written down? I can't find it, but basically I did write that there's never a serious moment in the film that isn't followed by like often a dumb joke, because you know when Sodom is like, oh, all this awful stuff has happened, then he goes, oh, I was just gonna say, do you want like a necklace or something? Like, dude, leave it. Not everybody needs to be so fucking American about this. And
Americans do.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to be cussing out Americans, but you know your sense of humor is different to ours. And it seemed like that's the thing that frustrates me about it, because for the most part, the humor of the film, like the bit you found funny with Drax, that's fine. That's because the story's still going. But when you've got, you know, Makey Boy being like, "Ooh, what about a necklace?" or you've got Rocky Raccoon like being like, "Has anybody got any tape?" and then Star-Lord actually goes and asks everybody if they've got tape. Like if this were if it were the Naked Gun, that would be fine. But it really felt like an aside, or like it actually stopped the film because nothing's happening. And then they're like, and back to the action now. And this happened so often that there'd be some thing where they just, oh, let's do a funny now, as opposed to getting on with the story. Like there is no excuse, really. It's like if Game of Thrones started doing funny things, you know, and like at the cost of progressing the thing, when you know there's so much other stuff going on that's important and you know, urgent in a sense, I think.
But Game of Thrones isn't a comedy. It's not marketed as a comedy.
Well, no, it isn't. But it's a bit. I'm talking about writing. I'm talking about story and progression. And there's, you know, the Naked Gun has like 50 jokes every 2 seconds. You know, but the story never really stops. The story keeps going, and that's what this isn't. I mean, that's my gripe with it. But I think it's fair to say we all liked it, right? Actually, Aaron, you've been conspicuous by your absence.
Yeah.
Give us some thoughts, because you've actually read more than we have about anything.
Yeah. Guardians 2 is very similar to Guardians 1 in the fact that it does definitely play it safe. And I feel like Guardians should be like the main entry in the MCU that literally doesn't have to play it safe, because you've literally got the universe.
Like, it's literally like
Say again?
Like it's the Deadpool one of this universe. Like,
yeah,
want to do more.
It sort of is, yeah.
Yeah. And I enjoyed Guardians 2 more than I enjoyed Guardians 1, because much like The Last of Us was the best movie of that year, Guardians was like, it was literally the best music video I'd ever seen on screen. Because I think the soundtrack plays too much of a point in the movies, if you know what I mean. Like it sounds like a weird gripe, but we're just going from like song to song, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to feel this way because this song, and this fight's epic because of the song, as opposed to just having an epic fight. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the fact that a lot of stuff was introduced in the second one. Like, we mentioned the Kree like 5 times, and that's actually that's a big factor.
They're mentioned in the first one.
No,
because Ronan the Accuser, he there's a bit where he decides he's not going to go with Thanos anymore. He says, "I want the Infinity Stone, and therefore I'm going to inflict 1,000 years of Kree justice upon Xandar."
Yeah, but it's the weird fact that the guys that came through the portal in Avengers 1 weren't Kree or Skrull. There was something else, weren't they?
They were the Chitauri.
Yeah, which is literally
why
just
weren't they the Kree or the Skrull?
And because they first showed up in Fantastic Four, and Fox have those rights, maybe.
Of course.
I don't know.
Should we bring it back into the film galaxy?
Yeah, man. I enjoyed the fact that there was a Celestial in this video. I'm like, that's cool as shit. I didn't enjoy the fact that the Watchers were just there talking to Stanley. I get that that's actually a good joke, and shut the fuck up, Dan, with your crazy theory.
What Watchers do though,
That's quite a prevalent theory, mind you.
Yeah, but why am I watching Stanley?
because he is a Watcher. Is the
It's
you know
massive.
Kevin Feige has come out and said he is a Watcher, right?
I don't care. I refuse to believe it.
Kevin Feige is the dude that owns Marvel Universe, the Marvel MCU.
I don't care. He isn't. Until Stanley grows like a giant head. That's it. His last cameo is just going to be like, and then it ceased to exist. But yeah, for the most part, it was a solid movie that tried to give you emotional trips, but I think it was overextending at certain points.
Yeah, that's
Like
fair.
the opening was,
Yeah.
the opening was like a slog, and I didn't want that. Whereas I think you should have just started off with Mr. Blue Sky and Groot.
Well, for me,
What do you mean?
if we're going to bring it back to the Groot thing, because I am,
Because you are Groot.
that bit was like fine until it like went on for what felt like a really long time.
Yeah,
And again, it's not progressing the story. It's just like, hey, this is cute and funny, which is exactly Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them as well, by the way.
Yeah.
And is, I mean, we did a podcast about this last year about comedy in films where like the jokes are the point instead of the story being the point. And I don't want to be like a cinema snob about to be like, well, narrative functions and all that, but if you're not progressing the story, then you are wasting our time. And at 2 hours 18 minutes, you need to get on with it.
yeah. It was bloody long, particularly for a midnight showing. Yeah.
I mean, there is no reason that it couldn't be 2 hours or an hour and 45. Because I feel the first one was quite brisk, and
Yeah, the first one's only 2 hours long.
yeah,
Only.
I think I actually said to you on the way out, I was like, that film is 2 hours long, but there's at least 20 minutes, half an hour of like comedy padding. Because like I said, there are good jokes in there, but some of them aren't. And not every joke can hit. That's fair, and I probably did laugh about 5 times, maybe more. That's a fair number.
Woohoo!
That's fair. 5 laughs out of 5. It was also Sylvester Stallone, but no. All right, so because I can probably shit on it until the cows come home, but I do want to try and enjoy it. I do want to try and have something nice to say. And what I take from it is that I really liked it. It was very colorful, and not just colorful, but like vibrant as well. Because you look at like the Captain America films, they're all very blue, which is a color, but it's kind of like, ugh. But this one's like, like Fury Road in a way. Like
It was, yeah.
it's more interesting to look at. And I haven't seen another James Gunn film, I don't think. But I get the feeling with the Guardians of the Galaxy films that they are more kind of more creative, more autorial, more directorial. Like I don't know what James Gunn's style is, but I feel like he's putting his mark on these films, and I can see it. And that's what you want. You don't want like a film that's like a faceless product of this whole continuum, really.
No.
I think. Because does anybody think about who directed Iron Man 2? No one does. People just go, Iron Man 2 was great.
Couldn't care less.
But this one, you go, that's James Gunn. He clearly enjoys making these films as well. It's not just like, oh, well, I've been contracted to do 3, so I'm doing 3. Or, I mean, it probably is, but it doesn't seem like it, and that's the important thing. Which I think, yeah, it makes absolute necessary use of the fact that it is a visual thing. I mean, how much of the other Avengers films, when they're not blowing things up, are just kind of talking and exposition? And yes, this was a lot of exposition, but there's a lot of cool stuff to look at. And being a very visual film, it really does, I think, quite accurately portray the feeling and understandability or something like that of scale and size. When we go to Kurt Russell's planet and we see his cool palace and that, that looks massive. That looks huge because other big things in these films, but I've never really been like, that is, that's massive, you know, and that's, you know, kind of magnificent looking. But I really got that from this. I think that's
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of grandiosity to it, certainly. But Matt, you made a very good point about the plot in general as we were leaving, about the villain or lack thereof.
Yeah, there was about, what was it? It must have been an hour or so into the film, where just spoilers on. So there was a bit about an hour or so into the film, just before Kurt Russell kind of reveals himself as, I guess, the bad guy of the piece. Where I turned down and said, the film doesn't actually have a bad guy yet. Like, sure, you've got the mutiny on the ship, which actually, just to go back to that, that was funny because he's like taser face, and like, your name's taser face. It's metaphorical. Like, I did like that. It's like metaphorical for us. Look, it's scary. Like, all that was good. But you know, okay, the mutiny, that's kind of a small thing, and Sylvester Stallone doing his thing, that's a small thing. There's no real bad guy, and if there's no real bad guy, if there's no real antagonistic force for the whole team, because Yondu going through his thing doesn't affect the main Guardians people. And okay, fine, they're running away from, you know, the gold vampires from outer space, but there's until you have a bad guy, until you have a proper antagonistic force, nothing's really happening. And as you said to me, Dan, a lot of it is just pissing about.
Well, yeah, there certainly was. But again, we seem to say this a lot when we do our general reviews, but you seem to see a lot of the legacy of these scripts, of kind of old versions, old iterations that were changed or maybe scrapped. So yeah, it leaves something that is basically quite confused. Obviously, like I said, I've enjoyed it, but I do agree with you in the fact that it was quite unfocused and lacking in direction. A lot of it reminded me a bit of the last Star Trek film, was it?
Yes.
Yes.
Where, you know, they're just stranded on a planet and pootling about, and no one really knows what's happening, and they're getting chased by this random race, but basically everything's still a bit funny and fine, you know?
Yeah. Because I think we did a podcast in about what, August or something, where we were talking about how the greatest weakness of these kinds of films, I think we had Batman versus Superman at that point, and the Star Trek Beyond, that if the bad guy is weak or ineffectual, then the characters have got nothing to do, basically. And that's such a shame, because I think Kurt Russell as Ego, and correct me if I'm wrong, might be the most powerful villain in the Marvel Universe that we've come across so far.
I mean, he's pretty up there. I don't know the specifics, but yeah, your point stands anyway.
Yeah, he's got to be up there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just we seem to see this kind of, again, spoiler, this twist happening a lot in modern films. I remember it weirdly in is it the Wolverine, the one where Wolverine's in Japan doing the samurai stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where we have this reveal of, oh look, there's a nice guy. He's really nice. He's helping you along. Oh my god, he's suddenly evil. Like, why do we have to keep having that? I feel it's contrived, and it's quite stressful, because you have all these really nice emotive sequences about seeing how Kurt Russell met Chris Pratt's mum, who was actually Will's girlfriend from the In-Betweeners film, which was strange. And we go all through this nice story of, I was on my own for millions and millions of years. I was forlorn, not knowing what to do with myself. I wanted some meaning. Then I found you. That's all so nice. And then we randomly get at the end. But really, I just want to destroy everyone and spread myself everywhere. That's such a weak motivation for a villain. You know, it's kind of like Agent Smith from The Matrix. It's evil for the sake of it, isn't it?
And, you know, I said this to you as well, that, like, why is it that when this happens, the bad guy kind of does a Poirot, like they're fine, and then they go, I knew it, and I'm horrible, and I would do it again. I'm just unbelievably horrible now, because he was like Chris Pratt is Star-Lord is having his discovery of he's kind of a little bit godsy, and you know, Kurt Russell's like, I made the universe, and I'm all cool and charismatic and powerful and all this sort of thing, and then he, I think, unnecessarily cruelly, because remember, he is trying to get his son on his side. He goes, Shame I had to put that tumor in her head. Like,
Yeah, see, that's the bit that bugs
Out of
me.
nowhere. Yeah, sorry, carry on, Dan.
also, he could have just not done that. In fact, it would have been better if it was just like randomly unfortunate, as Star-Lord had been led to believe, as most cancer is.
I think that would have been better anyway, just to have Kurt Russell kind of the reason for him kind of wanting to destroy everything or wanting to like build a new world is because the woman he loved died. I think that would have been a better emotional pivot anyway. But when that came out, and he goes, the first thing I did was putting the tumor in the head. Went, whoa, what? Huh?
Like, why you gotta be this way? Like,
Why suddenly blast that one out? That's evil to the
Why
point.
have you got to find out a massive revelation like that through a random throwaway bit of dialogue? It's what we complain about all the time. You know, like with The Force Awakens, when it's like, he's with your dad. It's that Han Solo, everyone! Oh my god! You know, if we find out all kind of organically through the plot or through Star-Lord or Gamora, who's suspicious throughout the whole time on this planet, doing the investigation, that'd be so much better than randomly, I've done a bad thing, please forgive me, you know?
and also to tie in this Kurt Russell stuff with the humor that I feel is often irreverent. There's a bit where Kurt Russell is doing this reveal where he's talking about, you know, I just want to be the dad you want to be, and then he's David Hasselhoff.
Oh, I like that though.
Yeah, I like that.
It was funny. I agree. I mean, I've even written it down here. I've got a good points column and a bad points column, and in both of them, I've written Kurt Russell as random David Hasselhoff, because that is funny. But not when he's revealing like important information, because now I'm thinking he's like David Hasselhoff's here, and that's funny. I can't remember what you were saying. Because whenever something funny happens, it like it just cuts right through whatever's happening. Cause it sort of derails the conversation a little
Yeah, but
bit.
you have to remember, it's essentially, it's not a serious film. You said it yourself. It's irreverent. It's basically a Mickey tape. It's meant to be funny. And we've spoken on so many occasions that if a comedy is funny, it's successful. I'm pretty sure that's a paraphrase of Woody Allen saying the only rule of comedy is that it has to be funny. So for my money, it's succeeded.
But it doesn't have to undermine the drama. Like drama and comedy aren't
Mutually exclusive.
Yeah, you know. So when he randomly turns into David Hasselhoff, see, even just thinking about Kurt Russell turning into David Hasselhoff is funny. It's just at the wrong time. It's like, imagine if, you know, in that last bit where he's like, if you kill me, then you'll be just like the others. But then he turned into David Hasselhoff. Like, it takes a bit of the punch out of the moment. But when Kurt Russell is revealing his villainous plan at that point. Which, to be fair, if you're like literally a god, and you feel alone in the universe and no one is like you, but you have the power to spread yourself across the universe, why wouldn't you? Because the film goes, oh, he's bad, he's evil now, he's horrible. Like the film, as with Caecilius in Doctor Strange, and as with Jared Leto in Suicide Squad, but less so. They've both Mads Mikkelsen and Jared Leto spoke about this character they were playing that like has a perspective that you can probably kind of get on board with, and they're not thoroughly evil and they're really interesting. But then the film just goes, they're bad. That's no good. Like, there's no reason that Ego couldn't be the bad guy of the film, couldn't want to be this universe, exploring guy who wants to take the whole thing over, while still not being, I put a tumor in her head and now I'm just horrible. This is the thing, I don't want bad guys being just horrible.
Well, being misguided, perhaps, but not like inherently, oh, I'm just going to troll everyone, which is essentially what he's doing.
Yeah.
I feel you. Just a quick question to Aaron and other Dan, our more expert opinions on this. Are there more of these god-type figures? Are they going to show up again?
There's more of them. There's no need for them to show up again.
Yeah, I think in the first Guardians, isn't the collector's base inside the head of a Celestial?
Yep.
Oh, I can't remember.
I mean, the idea is that all these things are gone. Basically, Ego is kind of like the last one. And I think they should leave it at that because it's kind of too big.
Yeah, they're massive players.
I just had that thought, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Russell isn't going to come up again, not just because, spoiler alert, he died, but I mean, they're not really going to talk about it again, I reckon. And indeed, why would they?
No, there's no need to.
No, that's true.
There's
Yeah.
no need. Doesn't that just mean this whole film was like a 2-hour, 18-minute reveal of Star-Lord having powers that he'll use later on?
Well, no, he
doesn't-
can't use them.
Yeah, he can do the thing.
No.
He destroyed the planet.
No.
How is anyone now mortal?
What's the fucking point?
I guess the point in that is, well,
He found his dad wasn't who he turned out he wanted him to be, and that's it.
But what they should have done is played on it more. Maybe he could have had. Again, this just stems out from the villain not having a plan you can get on board with. If he had a more reasonable plan, you could have had more of a doubt in Chris Pratt's character going, "Oh, should I take him up on it and help him?" Then we would have had a more engaging, I guess, dilemma at the center of it. But we lose that as well because I know we all spoke about this. It does bite off more than it can chew in terms of characters. Every 2 seconds a different character is going, "Oh, I have such a traumatic past. Oh my god, do you want to hear more? Well, tough." Let's focus on one or two.
So, right, going back to that,
Yeah.
my biggest issue with the film was that it's fine having the characters because they all split up. Like, they're in kind of like 4 or 5 teams at one point in time. They were so far apart. They all had these little moments going on, but like, it's only a 2 and a bit hour film. You can't fit all of those stories into one. So by the time they all come back together, none of their stories have really gone anywhere. Other than you've had little tidbits on it, so you know that Drax is sad about his family. You know that Gamora's sad about the disconnect with her sister and her dad. Her dad doesn't turn up at all in this film, which bugged the shit out of me because this is film number, 16?
Bah, a lot of them.
All
But
the films.
it's as you were saying. Like, why is because Guardians of the Galaxy? I feel is. I mean, it's not like the most important one, but in terms of like the space stuff and like the really big stuff, because these are the only people who have to do that. Why this one is completely unrelated to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which ordinarily I'd be fine with. Like Deadpool kind of is unrelated to the X-Men films, and I'm fine with that. But when you're this deep into the universe that they've sold us on and will be continuing to sell us for years to come, when they are trying for this big cohesive thing, why just like imagine if there were no Marvel Cinematic Universe and just this and Guardians 2 came out, that'd be fine, or Guardians 1 even.
Yeah.
But to have a whole universe and then go the people who directly are most connected to the main bad guy of the overarching thing, no, fuck it, that doesn't matter. Like, it does. It has to. They have to be getting towards Infinity War now because we've got less than a year until it comes out.
Yeah, so I found that it was it was more standalone than the first Guardian. At least the first Guardians had Thanos and had an Infinity Stone. That's all you needed as well. You just need to know that that's a thing that exists over here on Earth, and that's a character that's kind of appeared in a post-credit sequence over here in this film.
Yeah.
Literally all you need.
Because
It surprised me this film had none of that. Not even in the post-credit scenes.
So how would you have done it?
I'd have kind of... That's the thing, I don't know. Like,
It's not your job to know, to be fair.
I'd have maybe had... So the problem is, I could see doing it in a post-credit scene with them maybe going somewhere and looking at a Colosseum, and that Colosseum being the Colosseum that Thor and Hulk are fighting in. That would have been enough to kind of tie them together. It probably baffles me that they didn't do something like that. And I know Jeff Goldblum is in the credits, if you noticed him.
Yeah.
for some reason.
That's not enough of a link, because that's just while the credits are going, Jeff Goldblum has a dance.
I mean, as I've been saying since Guardians 2 got announced, I've been saying this is probably the one that should guide them to Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was saying that contingent on it being connected to Thanos. So imagine if Gamora or her sister, or they somehow find out that Thanos is now on his way to Earth, because he's kind of got to be at this point.
He is. The problem is
That's-
therefore he's not on his way to Earth. Like,
Also that, and then you have the Guardians follow him. They go, "Oh, he's going to Earth," and Peter Quill goes, "Oh, that's my home planet. I can't let him destroy that as well."
Mhm.
And then the Guardians set course for Earth, in a post-credit sequence or the very last thing, and we go, because we're not going to see them again until Infinity War, because now they're going to have to shoehorn in Guardians in either Thor or Black Panther, and they're going to be like, "Wait here."
I think Thor.
Probably
Did I hear Aaron trying to say something? Was his mic going funny?
No, I'm good, man.
Oh, I thought. Sorry,
No.
I thought I heard you trying to pipe in with something.
It's just I feel its connection to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is rather lacking, and I do think at this stage in the proceedings, it should be. You know, again, I'm going to do a Game of Thrones comparison. It's like if they did a Game of Thrones episode where they did a whole Iron Islands thing, but like quite near the end of the season. Like the Iron Islands, like they're there, but ultimately not important.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's frustrating, I think, because actually, separate note. Why didn't Star-Lord try and bring Yondu back to life with his god powers?
Because he didn't.
He doesn't have them anymore.
He doesn't have powers
He
anymore.
doesn't have god powers.
No.
He doesn't have them.
Plus, Yondu decking it, like, actually
'Cause-
build up the Guardians as, like, characters.
I agree, because this is
That
the
was
same
actually a really good bit about the movie.
Like, if
Yeah, see,
Rhodey
I
died,
like it. Yeah, so I like that he died. Yeah, as I said, that it did what Civil War failed to do, and it's kill off someone kind of big and important to a character.
but also, did you notice that nobody died in combat in this film? Like, no one. Like, Yondu died because he's like, you know, either I have the spacesuit or you don't, you know, or you do. But no one actually died because they got in a fight and they were killed. Also, it didn't click for me that Star-Lord had lost his powers. And I was thinking about, like, okay, it is necessary for Yondu to die, and it is good that you have a universe where death means something. We've always spoken about this. Death has to be a consequence, and the ultimate consequence. So with that in mind, I thought Star-Lord still had his powers at the end, and I would have had him try and bring Yondu back to life and not succeed. Because life is complicated, and that's one of those things that you can't do. It could be a very understandable law of the universe. It's like, sure, you can create life, and you can create planets, and you can make a giant Pac-Man, but you can't reverse death. You know? Like, that would have been fine.
Yeah, that is good.
But they didn't do that. But that's because he lost his powers. Which means also, does it matter?
Well, they did also say that, or Kurosawa said that if he destroys the planet, they'd both lose their powers because they both get it from the light. The idea of that is, I guess, it makes Peter Quill mortal, so now Peter Quill can die.
Yeah, but then we thought that anyway. We thought that before this.
Yeah, the mind with that is, yeah, we didn't know he was immortal until
That's true.
like, halfway through the film.
The film goes, he's a god. No.
Yeah, basically. But okay, what about the ending? I mean, I don't know if you're gonna say something cutting or anything, but I found it actually really, really emotional and hard hitting. All of that, you know, you have him sacrificing himself. You have the lovely funeral where he's invited back into the fold of the Reavers or something. I'm not.
The Reavers.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but I really did think that was a truly lovely ending because it added some more humanity that we could actually understand in it. You know.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, no, I liked it too. I think it was good. Plus, you know, I mean, I don't think they focused enough on the Yondu Star-Lord relationship. Be that as it may, when they're flying their way out of the planet, and he goes, he might have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. Like, I appreciate that because you're like, wait a minute, is he gonna die? Is that what's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
And watching the film, when he did his thing with his arrow thing, I'm like, I don't want him to die because that arrow is OP as fuck.
Little bit too good, really.
Yeah, but in any instance, I didn't want him to die. And I think, yeah, when I was watching the film, I'm like, man, I hope he doesn't die, and then he does.
Yeah.
And it's moving. Plus, he's like definitely dead. Like, there's no way they can like fake bring him back in another film, for example.
No, they roasted him at the end of it as well.
Yeah,
That is true. What did they stick him in the engine or something?
Yeah, I think that's what they did, and then or the
Yeah, they just crumb it.
like, shooting them out of the airlock sort of thing, or yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so back to one of your earlier points, Matt. Did you like the little jokey bit when Chris Pratt was doing the eulogy before the funeral? Did you think that was inappropriate?
What was the joke?
It was something about, I guess David Hasselhoff really was my dad.
I thought that was okay. It was okay. I mean, I like that. Was it? I think Gamora, like, she was like, "Oh, what about your, Draffid Daffledoof, in his flying plane or something?" He's like, "David Hasselhoff."
Oh
and
right, yeah.
Speaking car. Oh, yeah, that was fine. I enjoyed that.
And you definitely like the Mary Poppins joke.
Yeah,
Don't
because
pretend you didn't.
That joke is funny.
it was good because he got the arrow thing and he's like, "Wow, you like Mary Poppins?" He goes, "Is he cool?" He goes, "Yeah, he's
Yeah,
Mary Poppins, y'all." Like, that's such a hashtag. I very much enjoyed that because the thing is, I can't unsee Merle from The Walking Dead. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he just said, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all," and he has no idea who that is. Like I said,
Shall we summarize then? How long have we been going now?
37 minutes.
36 minutes.
I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it, but it's just I think having seen a certain film in 2014 or 14, where I first thought story is all that matters, like that is my all-encompassing thought when it comes to films. The story is all that matters because that's the free bit. It doesn't matter what the budget is. It doesn't matter, whether Skywalker Sound are doing your sound as they are doing for all films now, it would appear, or not. If the story ain't good and if the story ain't progressing, then you can do better. You can do better. And, for a film this colourful, for this, popular as it's going to be, and for this, the film itself is likable. For a film like that, you don't want to go, "Oh, it's a 6 out of 10. You want to go, "Yeah, it's an 8, it's a 9. We came out of Fury Road and it was like, "God damn, that's a 9. I even came out of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and thought, like, that's an 8. I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy 1. They've clearly done a lot more and tried a lot more with this one. And I give it like a 6. It should be more than that, shouldn't it?
Well, it depends. Again, do we score in context of what it's trying to achieve, or do you score it along with every other film that's ever made? So what do you mean? What do you mean by a 6? Is that in comparison with like The Godfather and stuff?
Well, I think in the canon of all films that have ever been, it's like not up there, and I don't expect it to be. But even in the canon of the Marvel Universe, I think it does have a responsibility to progress the overarching thing, and it doesn't do that.
That's a very fair criticism, to be fair. Like it does seem to exist kind of in a vacuum. This one, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I give it a 6, both as a film and as a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Because I mean, I still think probably The Winter Soldier might be the best one as well. You've got like some political espionage stuff, and I quite like that. I give that like a 7.5, something like that. But Aaron, you've been very quiet, and you're our comic book person more than any of us, certainly, even if you haven't read these.
Yeah. So in conclusion, my opinion is I actually think it's better than the original. I think the original relied a lot on the characters and kind of just scrapped the story together. That involved Infinity Stone because we needed to involve an Infinity Stone at the time. I think the second one, it tries a lot of more things, like introducing a Celestial, offering like actually a really cool character, introducing the original incarnation of Guardians of the Galaxy without anybody actually realizing in the cinema. Weird.
Wait,
The gang.
yeah,
what?
and that's Stallone and the friends on the ship at the end. Your first end credit scene. They're the original incarnation of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are.
Cool.
Yeah.
How do you know?
And because I went and watched it with the guy who owns a comic shop.
That makes sense.
That was literally my reasoning. I like actually having the Watchers in the movie, I hope that's brought up in some major capacity towards the end of like Phase 2, 3, 4, 7, or something like that. But as a whole, I actually think it's a necessary watch for the MCU. I don't think you can go in Infinity War not watching this. But I don't know why yet. Like, Adam at the end of it, he's going to be brought up. But
Yeah, what is that?
Adam Warlock.
Actually?
I'm not going to pretend to know what Adam Warlock is.
That's fair enough.
I mean, this
never read him in any capacity.
When it was announced, well, not announced, but when it was revealed, was it a week or so ago, maybe more, that this Guardians film has 5 post-credit sequences. I'm pretty sure we all went,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what? Because we know what a post-credit sequence is like, but I think this film didn't really have like 5 post-credit sequences like we're used to. It's just 5 things going on in this kind of related to these people. You know, like when there was the one at the end of Age of Ultron, Ultron, where Thanos like picks up the glove thing, and goes, "Fine, I'll do it myself." That's because like something else is going on over there. Whereas this is like, this is what Elizabeth Debicki's doing now. This is what Sylvester Stallone's doing now. Jeff Goldblum, but also not. And I think that may be a better way to do it. I'm not a fan of post-credit sequences, but keeping it in the family, as it were, for this film, made it feel less like they were shoehorning in stuff to the other films that we thought they were going to do.
Yeah, which is cool. But I
Still feel like they
Oh, go on.
still need to shoot stuff from other movies. Otherwise, there's just going to be stuff shoehorned into actual movies, and it's just going to feel so much out of place.
I mean, that's what I'm worried about, though, that they're going to shoehorn Guardians stuff into the other films before Infinity War. I mean, I guess they're not going to, but I don't know that.
I don't know how to get to it, though, because they are filming Infinity War now. The Guardians are filming Infinity War with Tony Stark and the rest of it. Like, they have met up, and they are... I don't understand how they go from being so far out of communication with all the rest of the films to where they are. But maybe Thor will answer it, I'm sure, but I don't know. This film just kind of, for me, needed to have something where, even if it was like as they were jumping through like 700 realities, even if one of them was Thor, Batman, and Hulk, or if one of them was like Doctor Strange talking to Dormammu, if they just appeared in the background, one of those scenes, and that again instantly would have been like, oh yeah, look, there's that guy.
Ooh, blink and you miss it. That would have been good. Because the major or a significant dramatic point that's got to come up in Infinity War, which sounds like it's going to be 3 hours long if they include this, which I've just thought about now and sounds good, so I'm going to say it, is and when Guardians have to go to Earth to meet the rest of the crew, that is the first time for most of his life that Star-Lord has been back to Earth. Like, that is going to be that's such like a that's going to be so important to him.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with how Earth has changed, you know, when he lived there, Reagan was president, and now it's Trump. Music's changed. He's got a Zune thing because they can't afford the product placement for an iPod. What's going on there? But so Quill's going to come to Earth, and that could be its own film, is what I'm saying. But you know, it's just going to be like Tony Stark being like, blah, 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 and then fuck it, let's defeat that thing. Because that's everything Avengers, isn't it? Just Tony Stark saying some witty stuff, and that's fine, but detracting from the drama as this film has been seen to do. Yeah. But I've been doing most of the talking, so I'm going to leave the rest of it to you guys.
I don't know. I mean, I think we've pretty much summed it up, haven't we? Unless anyone's got another knockout blows to make like that.
Not really.
So I suppose let's summarize. What should our collective numerical rating be? Like 6.5, perhaps, something like that.
I'll give it a 6.5.
I'd be in agreement with that. Yeah. Aaron?
I can.
There we
Yeah.
go. We have a consensus, everybody.
A unanimous 6.5.
So funny, entertaining, worth the watch, but could have been better, and doesn't link in well enough with the rest of it.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Actually, something I was going to point out yesterday, I think, and it only just occurred to me to say it now. If you take out any other of the Marvel films, including Guardians 1, it changes how the whole thing flows. If you take out this film, it affects literally nothing.
True enough.
I'm gonna potentially agree with you on that, but it's just we haven't seen the films after this yet, so we
No,
can't.
there's that. But if you took out Civil War, for example, it changes how those characters interact. If you took out Guardians, it changes how the Infinity Stones exist over there. It changes.
Yeah.
There's certain things that kind of link to it. If you took this film out and these carried on at the moment, like there's nothing in this film to kind of judge what's going to happen next.
But isn't that just indicative of a greater issue, if you can call it an issue, in the Marvel films? That if you take this one out, it has no consequence, and also none of the other films have consequences either. Like, okay, fine, some shit got blown up, and then that's the main theme of Civil War. But I'm talking about, the ultimate consequence. No one dies, because don't worry, they got to be in the next one, so they'll get in a fight, they'll be a bit mad at each other, and then that's it. There's no point getting in a fight with your superpowers and your super strength and your cool suit if you're not. I mean, this isn't Game of Thrones. You gotta kill someone, right? Like, death has got to mean something. Otherwise, they might as well just get in a slap fight. Tony Stark will just, Thor will just happy slap the Hulk and everything will be fine because the Infinity War's next year. That's it. No, I agree with you. I agree. But I've not got anything else to say about GOTG 2 Vol 2, so that's it from me.
And I would assume that is it from the rest of us.
I think so.
All right, I hope. Oh, what was that?
I said.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh,
Yeah, mine are her.
I mean, it's been our first live thing. I hope it hasn't been too jarring. I hope you've all heard us fine. And we'll do this again. Now you'll never be away from us.
We're here for it. Just like the Marvel films.
oh
We'll
God.
never leave.
That's true. All right, Aaron, do you wanna get rid of us?
Click.